Alright, this is the last video of the review. So we'll get started with this. So the graph number 18, we're going to have to get it into y equals. So 3x plus 6y is greater than or equal to 12. So what we need to do this is get y by itself. So I need to subtract 3x from both sides. And we're going to do it over here too. So I have 6y greater than or equal to, go ahead and change this to how we're used to, minus 3x plus 12. Divide both sides by 6. And y is greater than or equal to, reduce this fraction. So if you don't remember how to do this by hand, basically I'm going to divide 3 into both of those. But the calculator will do it. So if you go negative 3 divided by 6, negative 3 divided by 6, and enter. It's negative 0.5, which we could use. But we like fractions for slope. So go math, fraction, and I will reduce the fraction for you. So negative 1/2 x plus 12 divided by 6 is 2. So now we can graph this. So we're going to start at 2. Let me write this over here. Y equals, y is greater than or equals to negative 1/2 x plus 2. So we start at plus 2. Then we go down 1 over 2. Down 1 over 1, 2. Down 1 over 1, 2. Alright? So since there is a line here, we're going to use a solid line. If not, we would use a dotted line. And then y is bigger than this line, so it's up here in this shaded area up here. Okay, so same thing for this next one. So we need to solve for y. So we have minus 4x, minus 4x, and divide by negative 2. To divide everything by negative 2. So that cancels. Because we divided by negative, we have to change the direction of the sign. 10 divided by negative 2 is 5, but negative. Negative divided by a negative is a positive. 4 divided by 2 is 2. We can change this around how we're used to it. So we have y is less than 2x minus 5. So we start at minus 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Go up 2 over 1. Up 2 over 1. There's not a line underneath this. We use a dotted line. And y is less than or smaller than this line. So I put my pencil on the line and I shade downwards. Alright, so for number 20, we don't really even have to graph this one to find this out. All we really have to do is we have y is less than 2x minus 8. And then we have the point 3, 4. So that's x and that's y. So just put these in those places. So y is 4. Then put x where x is in parentheses. So that's a 3. Minus 8. And either do this by hand, or if you need to, you can just type it right in the calculator. 2 times 3 minus 8 is negative 2. So we're saying that 4 is less than negative 2, which of course it's not. So the answer to this then would be no. It is not a solution. We could graph it. We'd go minus 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1, 2 over 1, dotted line. Y is less than the line, so it's below. And then 3, 4, 3, 4 is up here, so it is not a solution again. Alright, to graph these, y equals x squared, that is the parent function for a quadratic. Hopefully you just know that one. But just to remind you how to use the calculator to graph these, we have x squared, and go to graph, and it's going to look, graph, it's going to look basically like that. But remember, we want to find this vertex point right here. So the lowest point, which is 0, 0. We have our vertex there. This would be the line of symmetry coming down the center. And then don't just draw it. Find at least a couple other points to be able to draw. So negative 1, positive 1. And they'll be the same point on the other side of the line of symmetry. Negative 3, 9. That's a good, looks like a good one. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And same distance on the other side. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And then we've got a pretty good drawing. So same thing on this one. Go back into y equals x squared minus 3. Don't just draw the graph, although you could, but we want it a little bit better. We want the vertex for sure. We want that bottom point. We go in the table, and it looks like the smallest point is this 0, negative 3. So 0, negative 3. Okay, and then pick at least one or two other points so we get a good drawing of this. So about 3, 6. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's going to be the same exact point on the other side. 1, 2, 3. And I'll be able to draw a parabola. Okay, so one more. 2x squared. Go to the graph. It's very similar, it's just narrower. The same thing, we want to use the table so we actually get some actual points. So the smallest one is this 0. Remember, if the parabola were facing the other way, we'd want the largest point for the vertex. It's 0, 0. We have a line of symmetry here. Down the center. Then at least one other point. So this negative 2, 8 should show up good. Negative 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Same point on the other side. Notice that this is quite a bit narrower than the other one. And there we go. All right, to simplify these, so remember we can only add things. Actually, we're doing PEMDAS here. Parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction from left to right. So in this one, there's no parentheses. And there are exponents, but they're with a single variable. So there's nothing we can do about those. So we're not going to worry about those. There's no multiplier divides here. So we're just going to add and subtract like terms. So if you remember, those are the ones with the same exact variable. So for this purpose, x squared and x are not the same variable. So we want to add our x squares. Then we want to add our x's. Um, 6 plus 2 is 8, I'm sorry. And then we want to add anything that doesn't have a variable. In this case, there's only one of them, but there might be more than one. And then that is simplified as far as we can. All right, so let's take a look at 25. So parentheses, I see some parentheses. So we need to distribute that. So we're going to do 3x squared plus 4x plus 4 times 2 is 8 minus x squared minus 6. So there's no more parentheses. There's no more multiplier divide. So we're going to add and subtract like terms. So we need to add our ones with x squares. So 3 minus 1 is 2x squared. Then our x's, there's only one of them here. So we're just going to write it down, plus 4x. And then our constants are ones with no variables. 8 minus 6 is 2. And we're done. Alright, so for 26, scatter plot. So just a bunch of dots, but these should be going up as x goes up. As x goes up, y goes up, so that if we had a trend line, that trend line would have a positive slope. A negative relationship would be the opposite. It would be going down. And remember, it's relationship, association, or correlation are the different words. That would be negative. And then you also have no correlation or no association. There doesn't seem to be any comparison between where the x and the y are. Alright, 27. In the given sequence, what is the next number? Alright, so we can look at this several different ways. So just simply, let's see if it's this simple. Is it going up by a certain amount each time? Up by 4, up by 4, up by 4. Alright, so then that one's very simple. So the next number is 9 plus 4 would be 13. They don't necessarily have to be that simple, but that one was. Alright, so the last part of this video is awfully long, so let's see if we can move through this. So solve each of the following by factoring or using x equals the quadratic formula. X equals minus b plus or minus b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Now remember, we didn't practice this a lot. We had a method that we used in the calculator if it didn't come out evenly. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to plug this in, and we're going to see if it comes out evenly. X squared minus 3x minus 10, and we graph it. And there are two zeros, and it looks like they're right on the line. So let's go into our table and make sure that's true. So we're looking for when y is equal to 0. So those will be our two solutions. So y is 0 here, so negative 2. And what's our other one? Do we have another one? 5. The other way we could have done this one is to factor it. So factors of 10 that when I subtract them equal 3. So my factors of 10 are 1 and 10 and 2 and 5. So when I subtract those, I get 3. So I have x. The 5 is bigger, so that's got to be negative. Equals 0. So what makes that 0? 5. What makes that 0? Negative 2. Alright, this one. So unless we want to use the quadratic formula, which we could, we can solve it on the calculator. So we're going to go 4x squared minus 11x minus 3 and graph. So we do have two zeros. It looks like this one's right on a point, but this one we're going to have to find a different way. So let's see if that's true. So we go to our table, and Yeah, see, it goes from negative to positive here without hitting it. So this one's going to be a fraction. But this one, this 0, we know. We don't have to worry about that one. So one of them is 3. So how do we do this? So we have, go back in our graph, and we want to find out what that 0 is. So we're going to go into calculate a 0. Now remember, the hard thing about this, we have to find something to the left and something to the right to tell it which 0 we're talking about. So it asks for a left bound. So I'm going to pick a number over here, minus 10. I'm going to pick a right bound. There's got to be something in the middle here. So I'm going to pick 1. And then the guess, don't worry about. Just hit it one more time. And it gives us our other 0, which is negative 0.25, or negative 1/4. Alright, so this last one over here, we have to do one step because it needs to be equal to 0, so we need to add 15 to both sides. I'm going to move this over so you can see it, 3 and negative 0.25, and I am going to erase this so we have some room. Alright, so we have to add 15 to both sides. So when I add 15 over here, this is going to cancel. Then I add 15 over here. So I have x squared plus 8x plus 15 equals 0. So again, we're just going to plug this into the calculator. And y equals x squared plus 8x plus 15 and graph. So I do have two zeros, and it's hard to tell. It looks like they're going to both be decimals. So let's take a look in the table. Oh, nope, they're both right there. So there we go. So y is 0 at negative 5, and y is 0 at negative 3. So those are the two solutions. So it's negative 3 and negative 5. So if I was to factor this, I'd do factors of 15 that when I add them equal 8. 1 and 15, 3 and 5. So when I add those, that's 8. So those are the ones I want. X. They're both going to be plus because we need plus here. Plus 5x plus 3. So what makes that section 0? Negative 5. I actually wrote that down wrong. Negative 5. What makes that 0? Negative 3. So those are our two solutions. Alright, last one. I know this video is very, very long. Given a rectangle with a width of 6 and a length of 10, find area and perimeter. So perimeter is just 10 and 6, so that's also going to be 6, and that's also going to be 10. Perimeter, you'd add them all up. 10 plus 6 is 16, 26, 32. So perimeter is 32, and area is length times side is 60.